Welcome to Catherine Raker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions. This is Catherine Raker's World.
Hi, this is Catherine Raker of Catherine Raker's World, our syndicated TV show, and Let's Just Talk, our syndicated radio show. Our guest of honor today is Bailey Fearon, who heads the Perimeter team as the Chief Executive Officer, directing product and team operations. Coming from a family of first responders, thank them for their service, and you too. She was inspired to develop Perimeter after experiencing the Tubbs fire in her hometown of Santa Rosa. She brings over 7 years of experience in data-driven business models. And Perimeter is an all-risk solution app that addresses challenges faced by emergency managers and first responders during the day-to-day operations and disasters. So we're going to let her tell us all about that. And she's running for Miss America, and it's just the beginning because she's Miss San Francisco. So welcome to her show, Bailey. How are you today?
I'm doing so well, Catherine. Thanks for having me.
Well, I am so excited because number one, you're in a city that I love, and a wonderful state that I love, but half my family lives there, like I told you, and they're going to be so excited to get to know you, right? And we want to help and promote you as much as possible. But what you're doing, tell me how you started Perimeter and why.
Absolutely. So Perimeter for me started in 2017 when my family and I were evacuated from the Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, California. So I was a student at UC Berkeley, but my family, and specifically my mom, needed to evacuate from Santa Rosa, which was about an hour away. And my mom had just had major surgery, and so she needed help evacuating. So my brothers and I drove up to help her get out. And during that evacuation, we had no information about where to go, how to get there, where the fire was, which roads were closed. And I was shocked because coming from a first responder family, I thought that we specifically would have had information about where to go and how to get there,
Right.
but we didn't have anything. And after the fire, I started talking to fire departments like the one that my dad worked for in Petaluma. And what I thought was that they must have all the information they need to make decisions, but they couldn't get it to residents like me. But that assumption was completely incorrect. It turned out that the fire departments and other public safety agencies were primarily relying on paper maps and radios for all of their situational awareness. And so we started Perimeter to bridge the gap, not only between the public safety agencies and the public, but also to get the first responders, give them a place where they could share information between each other in real time. So that's what Perimeter does today. It helps first responders share information between each other and the public in real time during emergencies and natural disasters.
Wow. I have to really thank you for your service. And let me ask this question. Does it go beyond California? It's all over the country, the app, right? So that means that all of the first responders, right? And you have had a lot of fires in California, and some of those fires actually affected some of our family or extended family in California. And so I think that's the reason why it's so important. And I've experienced a fire in my apartment years ago. So, and people thought there were still people in the actual apartment, and they jumped in to see if there was anybody there, which unfortunately spread the fire a little bit more. But I know what it's like to lose everything and to start over again. So anything that can help would be great. So
Absolutely.
When did you began to roll it out in 2017? Is that when it happened?
So in 2017 is really when the research behind the company started. And then in 2018, really while the campfire was burning, did I realize with my team that this isn't something that we could just research. This is something we needed to build as quickly as possible. And so we started fundraising and eventually building in 2018. And we started officially deploying the platform after taking a year to test it with first responders in 2023. So January 1st, 2023 is when we started deploying. And those first deployments were actually for catastrophic flooding. And we expect that water-related emergencies are going to be one of the biggest reasons to use Perimeter.
I think so too. And let me ask you this question. Is it a nonprofit or a profit organization?
It's a venture-backed C corporation, so
It's a venture-backed.
not a nonprofit. And that's a good question because when I was starting the company, I was really deliberating with regards to, you know, what kind of legal structure made the most sense for us. But from my research, what I found is that most of the high impact public safety companies had that for-profit angle. And so that's the angle that we decided to take.
That's a good idea. And eventually you could do something nonprofit, you know, eventually coming down the road, right? So what gaps in the emergency response system does Perimeter fill today?
One of the biggest gaps that we fill is the fact that these public safety agencies don't have a single tool that they can use to share information between each other. So we really help bridge the gap between these public safety agencies. And then as we do that, we also bridge the gap between those public safety agencies and the general public. Right now, if you were a resident and you needed emergency information, most people don't know where to go. They will go to Google or they'll go to Twitter and they'll maybe type what's happening in Cincinnati, you know, emergency, but they don't actually have a place that they can go to get vetted information from public safety about what's going on and of course what they should do about it. So we bridge the gaps between these different groups, but from a technical perspective, we also bridge the gaps between the different tools that are currently being used. So I mentioned that a lot of first responders are relying on paper maps and radios. And when they're in the field, there's a lot of tools like that they use that aren't necessarily designed for the public safety use case, but it's the best, you know, best they have. And then there are also very technical mapping systems that are often used in the emergency operations center for, you know, the incident commanders that are directing the incident. And so what we can also do is bridge the gap that exists between those different technologies and tools. So instead of having something that's, you know, on paper and very, very rudimentary, not designed for, you know, the public safety use case, and these very technical systems, we can be an in-between that makes it easy for the folks who are using the complicated maps to also be able to get information from the people who are out in the field.
Can you tell us a little bit about the successes of Perimeter up to now? And also, does it include, of course, earthquakes, which we experienced a lot of when we were in California?
Definitely. So today the platform has been used for multiple catastrophic flooding evacuations, wildfire evacuations, also hazardous material spills, bomb threats, even day-to-day road closures during emergencies, but also in between emergencies like large disasters. There are so many situations that require map-based information to be shared between the public safety agencies or with the general public. And so we not only support during those gray sky big emergencies, we also help with hazards and resources that a county or public safety agency might want to share with their constituents. So we have been used for a huge range of emergencies, disasters, and even special events. And like I mentioned earlier, we're not just on the West Coast, we're also deploying in the Southeast, we're deploying in the Midwest, and we have conversations going with a lot of public safety agencies around the United States because, of course, these disasters are not limited to fires on the West Coast.
Right.
They do not respect jurisdictional boundaries, and every single public safety agency deserves to have the information that they need to make the best decisions possible.
The other thing is that we have tornadoes here, a lot of crazy weather, right? And so we really depend upon our cell phones or whatever for apps that tell you stuff. And that's really important, don't you think?
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm so excited about this. How do you monitor the effectiveness of emergency response rollout via Perimeter?
So we have consistent monitoring on both the iOS Android side of the app, but also the public facing map. So the way that the system works is first responders will download an iOS or an Android app, and that's what they use to share information between each other. But on the community side, we focus on having them just go to a website, a web app. So if they go to perimetermap.com, that's all they have to do in order to receive the information. And we set up the platform that way because we learned that 95% of people actually don't opt in to their alert and warning system. And
Wow.
so what we wanted to do was remove as many barriers to entry as could exist between someone who needs information and the information they need to make decisions that could save their lives. And so from a monitoring perspective, we always are paying attention to, how many people are on the app, how the app is performing. And because we have this consistent monitoring on both sides, we're
Mhm.
able to monitor the effectiveness of using Perimeter versus just using an alert and warning system. Because the alert and warning system can only reach so many people, and you
Right.
can only get them new information when you send a message. But
Mm.
with Perimeter, emergency managers and folks on the public safety side can push information and get it to the community in real time, and we can monitor how many people we're actually able to reach via that platform.
So let's talk about a recent success story of Perimeter making a difference with a disaster. And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the success stories that my team and I are really proud of is actually one of our largest catastrophic flooding deployments. And one of the reasons why we're so proud of this is typically when a public safety agency uses Perimeter, we like to onboard them and give them time in advance to use the platform and become familiar with it. But with this specific deployment in Central California for catastrophic flooding, we actually showed up literally on the day of the flood because they'd only signed a contract with us the day before the storm
Wow.
hit. And so what we did is we actually had to get everyone onboarded onto Perimeter literally while the emergency was underway. And
Wow.
what we're so proud of is that we designed the app to be incredibly easy to use, very intuitive, and we designed it not to require a lot of upfront training. And so even though these first responders had never actually touched Perimeter before, they were able to use it in just a few minutes, or in some cases, a couple hours of the incident being underway. And during that incident, we were able to help reach hundreds of thousands of people who needed to evacuate.
Oh, wow. That's so exciting because there's so many things that happen, like the Ohio River right now is flooding. And there are people that are affected by it. And it's sad for that to happen, but unfortunately that happens a lot every year. And we just never know what the weather's going to do. And so
Right.
can you tell me what are some of the most common challenges first responders face and how does Perimeter assist them?
Well, some of the most common challenges that first responders face, in addition to the increased frequency and severity of the disasters that they're walking into, is when they walk into some of these emergencies, they actually don't necessarily have a complete picture of what's going on. And even when some people do have the complete picture, they struggle to share that with each other. So the resources that are typically used by first responders to share information are, things like I mentioned, like radio, but also email or text if you happen to know some of the folks that you're responding with. But the challenge of being limited to radio, email, and text is that during a large disaster, there are agencies responding from all over the state, all over the country, and in some cases, even all over the world. And so they don't have a system that makes it really easy for them to all be on the same page, which means it's easy to have a, a really incomplete picture or even contradictory pictures of what's going on. And so we can help them by ensuring they have a real-time map that's easy to understand with the information that they need to make decisions. And we see first responders as being on the front lines of the climate crisis and the increase in severity and frequency of these disasters. And so we believe that empowering them with the information they need to make decisions and keep the public safe should be our absolute top concern.
Right, because you never know when a hurricane's going to occur or a tsunami is going to occur. And I'll never forget my first earthquake. And you know what I can't understand is why they make you go on the ground, because you can feel the earthquake a lot more than when you're standing up.
Right.
So anyhow, but it affected, I'll never forget the earthquake that happened in Oakland. And people were on the highway and it was wild, and it was so devastating in a lot of ways that and like, for instance, I was just in Maryland a couple weeks ago when the bridge was hit by the boat or the whatever, the transport. And think about those people that lost their lives and how fast did they get there? Or for instance, Palestine, Ohio, where they had that major disaster. So I can see where your organization, and how long did it take you to figure out how to do the app?
Well, it took us about a year of development, and then we took another year to really test it, especially because we wanted to test the platform in low connectivity and no connectivity environments, because even if a place starts with good connectivity, during a disaster, there's always going to be a major connectivity issue. So we took a year to actually test Perimeter out in the field.
So how many people work with you today?
There are 12
first responders, huh?
There are 12 of us that are full-time.
Oh, that's great. I bet your family's excited about what you're doing, right?
I think so.
They're proud. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Miss America contest and being Miss San Francisco. I bet you are so excited. When did this all happen? When did this all happen, Bailey?
So my journey with the Miss America organization started last year when I attended Miss California for the first time.
Wow.
And I went to attend to support a friend of mine who was competing, and I walked into that environment not expecting too much, but I was blown away when I was there, because all of the women that I saw competing on stage were the most intelligent, articulate, empowered, service-oriented young women I have ever seen in my life. I was blown away. All those stereotypes that I had in my head about what a pageant looked like were totally thrown out during that experience. And so I decided that, well, I'm aging out of the Miss America organization this year. So I decided, well, it's my last year to compete. I think I'll just do it for fun. I'll do it for the experience. I'll get to meet some of these other women. And much to my surprise, I actually won the pageant that I competed in, and that was back in August. And so that's why I'm now on my way to Miss California representing San Francisco.
So when does that happen?
That happens in June 15th.
Wow. And where do you go for that? Is it?
It's going to be in Visalia, California.
Wow. And I know Visalia very well, by the way. Yeah, I know, because my daughter used to practice there, occupational therapy. And so I know Visalia really well. It's a beautiful little town. It really is.
I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. And then when is the Miss America actual contest this year?
The Miss America contest will be in January of 2025.
Okay. And then we'll be able to see it and everything, right?
Yes.
So anyhow, I can't thank you enough for joining me. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be promoting your app as much as possible, and praying a lot for you for becoming Miss America. And I will I will be so excited if you get it. But you know what? The honor of being Miss San Francisco is awesome in itself, or Miss
I
California.
think so.
Don't
I
you
think
think
so.
so? I think so.
Absolutely. It's a great
California
city to
wins a lot.
represent.
You know, California wins a lot,
Okay,
right?
fingers crossed.
Yeah, right. Okay, so anyhow, I want to thank you so much. Can you do me a favor? Give me your website, please.
Absolutely. The website is perimeterplatform.com.
How can we find out about you, the situation for Miss California? Is that one, there is one for that too?
Yes, yes. If you follow me on Instagram, my personal is Bailey.Farron. So my name.
Bailey.Farron.
And then for Miss San Francisco, it's Miss San Francisco _ CA.
Miss San Francisco. What?
_ CA.
Underscore what?
CA.
CA. Okay. So I'm going to give mine out, if you don't mind.
Right.
Okay, it's CatherineRakersWorld.com, and that's KATHRYN, Raker, RAAKER, with an S on it, world.com. And also letsjusttalk.com. And if you have a iPhone, you can get our free app on that. And all the radio shows are up there. And then we also have a healthy cooking show called the ChefYouAndI.com. And so when I come out there, I'd love to have you on any of my programs. Absolutely. So if you have a recipe that you want to share with me, we'll use it on the show.
Oh, definitely. I have so many.
Oh, good. That's great. So let's do it. So you have my email, which is kraker123@gmail.com. I want to thank you so very much for joining me. It's been such an honor. Absolutely an honor. Thank you so much. And
Thank
stay
you.
with me after the show for a minute, okay?
Okay, you got
See
it.
you. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me on Catherine Raker's World. And let's just talk, Bailey, and good luck in the very near future. And we'll see you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Catherine.
That's it.